Hey, welcome to today's episode. My name is Ron Simpson, and we have a stellar lineup of guests lined up for you. And today we are going to start with Anthony Hawley. We're going to dive deep into the world of talent acquisition, AI, workforce strategy, and probably everything in between. From data to disruption, we're covering it all. So buckle up and let's get ready to welcome our first guest. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure, of course. You are Senior Director of Strategic Advisory at Magnit Global.
I am.
That's
Yep.
correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, now I've read everything about you, and I'm probably thinking that everyone knows everything about you, but let's say someone is watching or listening and has no clue. How would you explain what you do at a party?
Yeah, that's a fun one. We always joke, folks from my team and my company, that no one really knows what we do. No one's ever heard of us. Um, so the short answer that I always give, the 30-second elevator pitch, is that
That's the one.
we help manage companies find the right temporary labor at the lowest cost, quickest speed, highest quality. So that's the short and sweet of it. We facilitate the process of finding contingent labor. So we're not a staffing agency. We don't go out and source workers. We don't, go cold call people seeing if they want a job. We manage the process of the companies that do that. So we have 10,000 plus staffing agencies that we work with, that we help our companies partner with to help them
Mhm.
find the best talent that meets all that criteria, right? We always joke about there's a triangle where you can have cost, quality, and speed. Choose two of the three. You can't have all. We aim to help clients have all three. So that's kind of the quick intro elevator pitch of it.
Okay, so you're basically, destroying the law of physics, which is great. I
That's
like
the
that.
idea. Yep.
Okay, now that's a good elevator pitch when it comes to, what you do in the company you work for, but let's try it again and aim at you as a person. What would be your introduction?
Okay, my introduction. Yeah, that's a fun one. Um, Everybody loves talking about themselves. Uh, so I have a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in industrial organizational psychology, and a PhD in organizational development. And I like to joke that I don't really do any of that, but it informs it, right? So I'm not I don't have my own psychology firm. I'm not out there as a true dedicated one-off consultant that hung up, their name on a business somewhere and doing my own thing as Tony Consulting. But the day to day of our company is just that consulting, at least from my team's perspective. It is the consulting to organizations on how to make the best choices, right? To find that talent uh, quickly, appropriately, and that's what I do, right? It's helping inform that process, helping advise clients on where we see the industry going, where we see other clients having success, and of course, we're not using other clients' names and giving out proprietary information by any means, but we're helping with that cross client benchmarking. What do we see working? What do we see as the pitfalls? And helping clients navigate that war for contingent talent, and helping them find that talent quickly, making sure they're happy with it, and then when there's problems that might come up for whatever reason, my team, the strategic advisory team, is going to swoop in and try and solve that problem.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what would be the, let's say, top three things on your resume?
Top three things. Well, it's always skills, work, and education, I think, are kind of the three big areas of a resume. So, skills, I would say telling stories with data, right? You can give folks a number. You spent $100 million this year. That doesn't tell them anything. If you give folks
Hmm.
numbers, great. It's just a number on a slide, number on an Excel sheet, number in a business intelligence platform. Doesn't really matter. You have to give the context around that. You have to be able to understand that story, understand that context, and help them understand it, and help them understand how to use that information to move their organization along. So that's the skill
Okay.
piece. Education, I mentioned it, PhD. Um, everyone jokes piled higher and deeper. It's very expensive, very time consuming. Took a lot of my life. Spent a lot of time in school. Folks wondered if I'd be a professional.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Uh, I'm here, right? I'm a senior director at a company that I love, doing work that I love. So sure, it was worth it.
Nice.
And
And if we would look at your resume, right? So you
yep,
said three things: skills,
yep,
education,
and then work. Uh,
and then work. So when it comes to work, what would be the top three on your personal resume?
yeah, well, I've been with my current company, Magnit, for almost 12 years now. It's been a while, and over that time, I've held every position on the team. I started with our team as a business analyst, so I've had what 8 or 9 promotions over the 12 years, and I've held every position. I've grown with the team, grown with the company, and seeing how to be that strong individual contributor as well as moving into that leadership role and helping advise a team of right now I've got about 40, 50 folks that directly or indirectly report up through me. I've got managers and directors on my team. So it's,
Yeah.
helping them learn the industry and move along in their career. That my goal is to help every person on my team get promoted and move up. If they're not doing well and moving up, then I'm not doing well. So, I mean,
Okay. So if you
I'd
would
say that's a big accomplishment for me.
definitely, if you would look at a resume, when you're looking for talent and you see one resume that has like five hotshot names of companies on there, like, yeah, I worked at all of them. And you see another one which has one name on it, but in the same style as you just mentioned. So started somewhere and worked all the way up. Which one would be more valuable in your eyes?
It depends, right? You have to find out what those what that person was doing or what those two folks were doing at their individual organizations. If the one with the 5 names, the household brand names that everybody knows, if all they did was the bare minimum. They were there for a year and didn't get an increase, didn't move up, didn't promote, started at the next company in the same position, next company, same position, same. That's probably less impressive and less of a draw for me to bring them into the organization than somebody who moved up and grew and the company saw their value and rewarded them appropriately and moved them up through the organization. Now, the person on the other side, if those 5 companies were continual increases and they were at each one for 3 to 5 years and we saw a steady progression, then I don't know that there's much of a difference. It's maybe that one is more impressive because they've seen a wider scope of industries and of clients. But the thing about my organization that I really like is we have 600 plus clients. So even if I've spent 12 years in one company, I've worked with 600 clients. It's like having 600 jobs, right? Every day is a
Yeah.
every day is a different question. Every day is a different request deliverable. You never know what you're going to get, right? You learn so many different things because every company, no matter if they're in the same industry or different industry, looking for the same type of workers, they're all different. Every company it has a different approach. So it makes it really interesting. And that's what I've liked over the years about my current organization is you never really get bored because there's so many different companies that you're working with.
Yeah, I like that. Having 600 different clients is like having 600 different jobs.
Yep.
That's a good one. Um, so on your resume, what would definitely be missing that we should know? What did you not put on there? Could be something personal, could be something fun, could be a highlight of whatever. What
Oh
would that be?
goodness. I don't know. I mean, I try to put all the professional stuff on. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not talking professional right now. You could put anything you want on there.
Yeah, all right. Well, if it's personal, a big accomplishment that I've had, and it's something that I joked as we started earlier before we started the formal recording, is that I run every day, and
Yeah.
I've actually completed the 100 mile distance 3 times. So that
Wow.
involves, getting up at 5 a.m., starting the race, and running all through the night, all through the next day, and in some cases running until 11, 12 a.m. the next day. So, I've
That to me
finished.
sounds heavier than 600 jobs.
Yep, yep. I've finished that distance. My fastest 100 was just under 24 hours, and my slowest 100 was just under 29 hours. So imagine standing up and moving for 29 hours straight.
Yeah, standing up. You had me at standing up. Like, imagine standing up for 29 hours straight. That would make me go absolutely crazy. That's quite an accomplishment. Congrats. Cool. Thanks for sharing also.
Yep.
Um, Now let's get into the business side of things, into
Okay.
the vision side of things, and kick it off with a big question. Now, when it comes to transforming talent, right, and talent acquisition, workforce strategy, how do you think you can actually make an impact? Is it about the right people? Is it about, the tech? Is it about strategy? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's a blend of everything, right? The three things you just said, people, talent, tech, and at least from my current company's approach, that's the approach that we take, right? We have a VMS, it's our own technology, but we'll work with other technologies that are out in the world as well. And we've got our people. The team that I'm on is part of our MSP team. We've got client services folks around the globe. Um, so how do we pull all that together to impact talent? It's a number of things. It's having the expertise in the space that those clients don't necessarily have to have internally. That's
Mhm.
a big piece of our business is let us do what you're good at, so you clients can do what you're good at, right? You don't necessarily need to be the biggest cell phone maker in the world or the biggest search engine in the world and also be experts in contingent labor. That's not your area. That's our area. So we'll come in. We've got
Yeah. So
that.
let you do what your company is really good at so that you can focus on as a business on what you're really good at yourself.
Yep. Yeah, and that's our goal, right? Is to come in and be the experts in the space. We're not trying to tell an IT company how to create their website, but we are trying to tell them, hey, you need five software engineers. Do you really need them in person in San Francisco, in the Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, or can you bring them in from anywhere? Do you just need their skills? Well, let's talk about a different place that you can potentially source them at. Have you considered other countries? Does that work for your business? Where is the lowest cost, highest quality talent that you can get the quickest? Might not necessarily be right down the street from your headquarters. It might be halfway around the world in Romania or
Mm.
Poland. And did you know that if you do that, you could save $100 an hour every hour that person's working? So that's that's where we're going to come in is to help advise on that. And maybe you do need them in person in San Francisco. Let's make sure you know what to appropriately pay them, right? Don't overpay, don't underpay, pay the market. Make sure you're getting the right quality. Make sure you know what others in the industry are paying. And that's where the value of having 600 clients comes in. We know what everybody in the space is doing, and we can help advise
Yeah,
on what's appropriate, how to be
very
competitive,
data.
how to understand the landscape.
That's nice. So, an industry this big, right? It usually innovates kind of slowly. It moves and it grows and um, in its own time. But was there, and usually when something moves slowly, there's not this big aha moment like, oh yeah, we changed that and then everything happened. But did you ever feel that you changed something or advised the client or did something that gave you that aha feeling like, hey, this is actually clever, we should do this more often, or this tool's amazing?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that's part of the strategic advisory team is to come up with those new ideas, those new insights, those new innovations, those new deliverables. I'll give you an example and how it's evolved over the past couple of years. At the very
Please.
beginning of COVID, and I'm sure everyone's very familiar with what was going on. We as a global population didn't really understand it, didn't know what it was. I'm talking the very beginning. And we're hearing, hey, you should work from home, or hey, folks are getting sick and we don't know why. And organizations that we worked with were having trouble just understanding who was impacted where. So we were seeing a lot of impacts very early in places like Italy. as opposed
Mm.
to the US. It came a couple months later and really hit our news headlines a few months later. But clients were already asking us about it when it was more of a offshore for us, something that the US wasn't necessarily focusing on heavily. So we created a reporting package that allowed clients to understand exactly where all of their non-employee workers were, quickly highlight those, get communications out to them. So rather than panic everybody, a global company operating in 50 countries, you don't need to send a
Yeah.
mass email to 10,000 people. You need to send a mass email to the 20 people in the country that you're focused on today. So we built that. We paired it with some of that available data like Johns Hopkins health data and other global health data and married it into a business intelligence platform to identify where the outbreaks were, where clients' big populations of workers were, and tell them, hey, these are
Mm.
the folks that you want to talk to today. Obviously, once it became a worldwide pandemic, the usefulness of the
It's a
dashboard,
different story.
yeah, you
Yeah.
don't need it, right? It's an email to everybody because it impacts everybody. But at the very beginning, we were ahead of the curve. We built that dashboard in a day or two and had it rolled out to every client that wanted it in a week.
Wow.
More
That's
recently,
amazing.
yeah, more recently, we evolved that same principle for the LA wildfires. I'm sure a lot of folks have heard about that. Los Angeles, a
Absolutely.
few months ago, they were devastated by wildfires. We took that same dashboard approach, married it with Cal Fire data, so California fire data, to understand where the big pockets of data were, or of fire were impacting, and paired that to a client's data that was very heavily California based to let them know, hey, you've got 22 employees that are in this evacuation zone. You're probably not going to see them at work today. You need to give them some special considerations, and being able to click down into zip codes, into neighborhoods, and identify these are the three people that are definitely not going to be online today. So just
Wow. Yeah.
those quick impact things that can really change the lives of those workers for the better, right? They see that the client and the organization cares about them. They know what's going on with their lives. And we've helped those managers understand, like, hey, this work is probably not getting done by this person today.
Yeah, and it's one thing realizing it or seeing the opportunity. It's a total other thing being able to pull that together in 1 or 2 days and even quicker. So that I think that's impressive. I think, tech and insights and data are probably driving most of the future. But there's a lot of other things. There's of course AI, there's
Yep.
automation, there's all this other stuff. If you were to have a crystal ball, where would you see the industry in about 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think right now everybody's answering that question the same, or at least including AI in it, right? I don't think there's any way to get away from that. Um, do I personally think that AI is going to replace every single worker? No, I think that's a pie in the sky notion, or maybe it's not in 10 years, but at least in the next two or three, no, you're still going to need the humans involved for the most
Hmm.
part. But where I see the most value in AI is taking the I don't know, the workload off of things that don't necessarily add strategic value, right? Like think of it as like a cheat sheet on a test where, your
Yeah.
professor says, "Hey, you can bring a note card of notes for the basic theories or whatever the subject is." You don't need to waste your time memorizing that. So let AI do that piece for you. Ask it questions about that stuff. Writing code, answering complex formulas that you can't figure out why you're not getting the right number in your cell, or why the visualization's not adding up the column correctly. Whatever you're working on, let it do that stuff for you. Why waste your time, spinning your wheels on programming and formulas, or researching uh, just the other day, I asked it for some market insights in a location where I needed some quick hit guidance for a specific city.
Hmm.
AI pulled back a very robust document of 37 references in about 10 seconds. And, is that the same rigor as if you were writing a dissertation and reading all of those documents in person and taking copious notes and understanding it?
No.
No, but you need quick insights for a meeting in 5 minutes. It's great. So I think that speeds everything up, moves everything along, helps folks add value quickly, and helps them focus on the things that actually matter, the things that AI can't do.
Yeah, so it's more of a tool than a replacement at the moment. What other things do you see in the coming 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, from my team's perspective, it's business intelligence. That's uh, front and foremost for us is um, client insights, is helping take data and tell stories with that. Um, the more that we can do to predict the future, create that glass ball for them, that future story, the better. Like we've got a client that's very heavy in the agricultural sector, so it's looking
Yeah.
at weather patterns and pulling in data from uh, crop yields and helping project what their talent needs for the next 3 years are going to be based on where we see the global climate going. That's not something that you would immediately think of when you're talking contingent labor, but it's things that we're focused on and worried about. It's how do we help our clients prepare for the next year and the next year and the next year? Talent's not going to be the same. They're not going to need the same things. Um, their products are not going to be the same. Their clients' needs, their customers' needs are not going to be the same. So, what can we do to prepare them where they're not, waiting until COVID to get a bunch of nurses in the door? They know that something's
Mm.
coming and they've done that hiring up front, or they've at least determined what markets they want to go to when that hiring need does actually come.
Okay. And with all these tools and all this tech, and the development of it, right? The speed of that, do you think we are now able to see further in the future, like years ahead, or actually shorter because it changes so much?
Oh man, I would at this point I'd venture to say shorter, just because of how many advancements there are. I mean, you look back to 5 years ago. Did you think that you could go on a computer program and ask it to do a dissertation's worth of research for you and get that done in 10 seconds? Probably not.
Yeah, true.
You wouldn't have even ventured that as a guess or as a realm of possibility. But where we can look into the future and provide those insights, we definitely want to, and that's what clients want. They want to know what to expect. They want all of their talent insights to be proactive rather than reactive. If they're reactive, that means their competitors are already doing it and they're late, and it's going to take them longer, cost them more, or be lower quality.
Okay. And as a person or as an expert, do you believe long-term planning is dead or it's just evolving?
No, I don't think it's dead. It's evolving for sure. I think you always have to be thinking of and planning for the future. If you're not thinking years in advance, then what are you doing? But you have to be able to change and evolve that, right? If the economy goes in a completely different direction that you anticipated, you
Hmm.
can't keep going down the same path. It doesn't make sense. You're then just being reactive. So you have to be able
Adapt or
to,
die.
yeah. You got to be able to evolve, but you want to evolve from an informed approach. So try to use the data that's available to you to make those smart decisions.
Okay. So, leaning on your own words, what would be your focus? What are you working on in the next 24 to 36 months? What's your focus?
Yeah, in our industry, the big thing that we've seen right now revolves around SOW. So that's statement of work. It is going out to consulting firms and finding talent, specialized consulting talent to come in and do work for you. So it's non-employee labor, so they're not your company's employees, they're another company's employees, but it's not a staffing engagement. It's not a vendor that's going to find a software engineer for you and send them to your company to do your work. They're being engaged for a specific reason, for a specific end goal, a milestone or a project or something like that. And we've seen a lot of organizations start to move their spend away from staff aug towards SOW. And it's frustrating because from all of our cross client knowledge and data and insights in the industry, SOW typically costs clients a whole lot more than staff aug does. When you need an SOW, a true consultant to come in, it absolutely makes sense. But we're finding organizations are going that path, heading towards SOW and away from staff aug due to policies that don't necessarily make sense that they've created for themselves internally. Whether it is a tenure policy that says you can only have a contingent worker on site for a year and then they've got to go away,
Hmm.
a cool off period. We see those employees or those contingent workers, I should say, come back under an SOW. So it's the exact same person under a different service line that isn't considered a head count. So they're getting around that policy, and that's costing them more. The markups between those two are typically the US average markup right now is about 40% for staff aug. For SOW, it's 70% plus. We've seen markups in excess of 100, 200, 300%.
If
What
you scale that, that is absolute bananas.
Yep, it's on $100 an hour pay rate worker. Are you paying $200 because of a 100% markup or $140 because of a 40% markup? That's a $60 delta on every hour worked. That adds up really quickly. But if that's the manager's only path to getting that person that they want in the door, it's not their money, it's their company's money, and they'll do it every day. So it's helping clients understand that that policy that they put in place isn't protecting them. All it's doing is costing them $60 an hour more on that one resource. Multiply that through on a global organization that has 10,000 contingent workers. Think of the millions and billions of dollars that they're wasting just because of a policy that was put in place.
That's nuts. You're, of course, also coming to Amsterdam to do a
Yep.
talk in September. That's going to be amazing. Are these the type of subjects that we can find in your talk?
Yeah. I would be lying if I said the talk is ready and 100% done and good to go. But I've definitely started pulling content together, and this is definitely part of it.
Okay, so just a little tease, right? Just a little one. If you were to do a talk, you could only have one slide. One. What would be the message on it?
Yeah. In my space, I have the slide. I would pull it up right now, but we'll keep that a secret. It'll be in the deck for September. But I call it the value of option slide. It's a slide that I use as education to hiring managers across the globe on what we just talked about. Are you making the right choice with the dollars that you're spending, the service lines that you're leveraging to bring talent in the door for your organization? And it walks through all of the different service lines that my company or many other companies in the space offer. Right, these are not unique. SOW is not unique to Magnit. Staff aug is not unique to Magnit. An FTE worker is unique. Is not unique. Every company has FTEs, full time workers. But it's walking through all of those typical costs, and it's not just that. We'll use the $100 an hour example. It's not just the $100 an hour that that worker takes home in their paycheck under these different service lines. It's what are the extra costs on top of that? The markups, the
The
taxes,
hidden
the
ones. Yeah.
statutory costs, the benefits, the recruiting costs, and thinking through all that. What are you actually spending for that worker, and where is the smartest play for the business?
So you just named a whole bunch of things that are very important, but and that you do have, but are not necessarily unique to the company where you work. Is there something that is very unique to the company where you work? Would that be this type of analytics, or would it be something else?
Yeah, I think our analytics is definitely, and it's my team, so definitely want to talk it up. But yeah, we think our analytics are above and beyond. We think they're unique in the space that they offer something that no other company can provide from an advisory perspective. Um, you know, we have insights across the globe. We work with, like I said, 600 of the world's biggest organizations from the Fortune 500 Global
Mm.
1000 lists, name brands that you and I look at and interact with every day. And we use that knowledge and understanding not to ever give away any client's proprietary information, but to understand as a whole, where do we see the technology market, the financial services market, the automotive market? Where do we see those industries going, and how are they managing their contingent labor? So Using all of that data to help tell those stories is, I would say, absolutely unique to our organization.
Okay. Then like me, I'm from a marketing background. So for me, when you start about storytelling, that's, when I wake up as well. But I also know that numbers are numbers, right? Data is data. And then you can spin that into any story you want. Do you feel like in the market, people are using stories of data that, feels more of a lie or a fairy tale, maybe even, or trying to scare clients into doing something or making stuff, look better than it is.
Yeah, and I'm sure every company does this in one way or another, but if you hear an organization come in and tell you that they're gonna cut your costs in half, that's a fairy tale, right? Talent costs money. Um, if you hear somebody say we're going to reduce your talent cost 10% year over year for the next 10 years, it's a fairy tale. People don't get cheaper over time. Um, talent, human capital, the rates typically go up unless it's a skill that is significantly falling out of favor and is just no longer really needed in the global marketplace. But think
Like
of
a human search engine.
yeah, like think of AI. That's not getting cheaper anytime soon. That is only getting more expensive. So if I were to come in and tell you, "Hey, work with me. I can bring your AI costs down on your AI programmers and experts in that space by 5% every year for the next decade," it would be a total lie. It's not going to happen. Those folks aren't getting cheaper anytime soon.
So would you recommend like using common sense to figure that one out, or is there another way to discover or like double check the data in the stories?
Yeah, I mean, common sense is one. It's the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But anyone that you're working with, regardless of the space, human capital, talent, intelligence, or other, ask them how. Ask for the backup, the understanding. You don't necessarily need to get into the weeds of a multi-million row spreadsheet, but understand where the numbers are coming from. Understand the levers that are going to be pulled to help drive those cost savings or to help increase
Mhm.
that quality and that talent. What actions are actually going to be taken? Ask to see examples of deliverables. What are you actually going to do for me? That's how you make sure that it's not a fairy tale, that there's actually some fact and science behind it.
Nice. And I mean, we all love facts and science, but I'm also curious, like with all this data, we're still talking about a lot of human capital, right? A lot of people. How big is gut feeling still of a player in any decision making?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can put a percent on it, but if you see somebody saying like, "Hey, this worker is worth $200 an hour," and you look at their resume and they've got 1 year of experience and they're fresh out of undergrad, the gut feel is that's not right, right? That doesn't necessarily make sense that the manager is misinformed or the organization's misinformed or they're trying to do a favor for their buddy who wants to get their foot in the door or get a friend's foot in the door. So the gut check is always there, but somebody telling you, you've got one vendor saying we can save you 5%, another one saying we can save you 7%. There's no gut check there, right? Those numbers are so close. You really need to do your fact finding and check what's actually driving those values.
Okay, so you also use like data to back up gut feelings when they're there. And if the difference is too small, then data makes the difference.
I would say so.
Is that
Yep.
safe to say?
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Um, Out of all the pieces of data and all the pieces of information and all the tools and everything that you use, which three would matter the most?
Yeah, so we're talking talent intelligence, human capital. So you need to know what you're spending, right? You need to know what's my total cost out the door to get the talent I need to accomplish what I need them to accomplish. That's the most
Mhm.
important. But then you have to understand where is that being done? Are there any global laws, implications that I need to consider that maybe in the US it's very different than in the UK, than in the Netherlands, than in India, than in Singapore. So you need those location details, that understanding of where, um, and then pairing all that.
Regional context.
Yep, yep. And then just pair that with the marketplace, the benchmarks, the what is the normal expectation, right? If you don't have a barometer or a comparison, I can give you any number I want and you don't know what it means. So unless you have that either access to benchmarks or access to a trusted partner that can tell you what's right or wrong, then you're
Mm.
just blindly making decisions in the dark.
Okay, and like a lot of data, is not really real time. How important would real time be? Do you think something like a month of difference, or maybe 6 months, three, 12, whatever, makes a real difference? And we should work towards trying to find real time data? Do you think that would have a big impact?
Yeah, honestly, 10 years ago, the answer would be, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, and that was fine and that absolutely made sense at the time, but now everything that we do, we aim for real time or as close to as possible. Now, some things are just not going to change every day, every hour, every minute, and maybe it doesn't matter so much that you have real time. Markets aren't necessarily going to shift in a day unless there's some major global pandemic or war breaks out in a region. Then the rates are going to change from day to day. But
Well,
short.
this time
Yeah,
it could change any yeah, any day
yeah.
then,
But
right?
short of like, are engineers in Silicon Valley going to change by 20% from today to tomorrow? Probably not. The rates are going to be about the same. Um, so real time maybe doesn't matter there. Maybe weekly or monthly is more appropriate. Some things, human nature of, we'll just take the example of entering a time card in a system. Some folks will put their, start time, end time in every single day, maybe twice a day, once when they start, once when they stop for the day. Others will wait until the week's up and just think back and put in all of their times at the end of the week. And you might not have that data until they've hit the submit button. So having real time on data that hasn't yet been entered, it doesn't do anything. It's meaningless. So in instances like that, maybe spend data is weekly. Um, Headcount, that can change multiple times a day. So that's something that you probably want to have more of a daily or immediate real time insights into. Um, Same is true with opportunities. What are we working on as a talent community? Are we sourcing 50 roles or are we sourcing five? Well, did we just fill 45 of them? We don't got a whole lot to do for the rest of the day. Did 50 just open? Well, maybe it's all hands on deck and we got to start recruiting
Yeah,
candidates. So then real time to the second probably makes a lot more sense in those instances. So it's a blend, but yeah, everything we do, we try to keep as real time as possible.
makes sense. I think it'll only get bigger in every industry. Fresh data, fresh insights, knowing what's going on at any given time makes more sense. Um, Now, obviously, companies like yours are amazing, and there are a few of these players around the world, right? But there's also like these global platforms when we talk about LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever, probably a little bit tougher to find real experts or placements with different countries involved, etc. But what is your view? Let's talk LinkedIn, Indeed. Well, how do you see those things?
Yeah, I mean they're great for what they do, right? They're specialized platforms for either connecting with talent, finding talent, talking to business leaders, sharing thoughts, sharing insights. I would be lying if I said I wasn't looking at news on LinkedIn all the time, right? Yeah, I want to know what's going on in the
Mm,
industry, see what folks are talking about, see what's going on in colleagues' lives. What are their achievements? What are their movements around the industry? A lot of these platforms have data associated with them, or there's, like LinkedIn has LinkedIn Talent Insights. There's a program that I'm sure a lot of us are aware of, Giant through Intelligence Group. That is a great tool for understanding the European market. I wish I had a great example for the APAC market. I don't, but really using those tools to understand the global marketplace is what I do all the time, right? It's a big part of my day to day is understanding what's going on in the
Mhm.
world. And that's what clients want. That's what businesses want. They want to understand what to expect where they are, and they don't necessarily have the time to do that research and fact finding on their own.
Now, let's hypothetically say that a platform like LinkedIn or whatever would get up to speed with the same tech and AI and automation that you guys are using, right? So right now, to me, it still feels like a little bit of a social old platform based at work, and they definitely have tools and they're doing things, but it's not cutting edge. What if they were to heavily invest and reposition themselves as that? Would that become a real threat for companies like yours? Will there ever be the super platform, or will there always be a need for companies like yours?
Yeah, I think until you have access to the right data,
Mhm.
no one company, no one platform, no one tool will be the one and only tool. It comes down to what data are you pulling in? What data do you have access to? Are you making assumptions? Are you making broad, overarching suggestions based on a couple data points, or do you really have insights into those markets, right? If you've got one client in a country, can you really be an expert
Mhm.
in that country? Probably not. You're only seeing small pieces of it. So you do need to leverage other sources that might have that data, whether they are um, tools that you have to pay for or they're free data, like in the US, we've got the Bureau of Labor Statistics or different government resources like that post information available globally on pricing and talent and different aspects of the labor market. Um, but short of having that access to some big, massive data set, no one's ever going to be an expert in any one area.
No way to have one ring to rule them all. There's not a piece of tech, data, AI, or whatever that will at some point create this monster that could solve it all.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe in the future there is. I don't think it exists right now. If it does, send me the link.
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. I'm just curious because, we've seen so many things change due to tech. Big brands fall, big platforms fall that we would have never expected to do. So I was just wondering, like, if there isn't a king on the hill, then what would it take to get there? And sometimes innovation really helps. And maybe you knew a thing or two, you know? Are there any other new kids on the block we should be keeping an eye on? Whether it's tools or companies or strange secrets that you have that we are about to spill.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any strange secrets to spill, but I think like we've seen it recently in the business intelligence area in the business intelligence tools. There's a lot of legacy tools out there that haven't seemed to, and I'm not going to name any of them to call anybody out, but there's legacy tools that used to be the number one business intelligence tools in the market, and they haven't seen much updates, much innovation, much uh, in the way of improving their offering versus
Why do you
others.
think that is?
Complacency, comfort, lack of folks in the organization that have the ability to innovate. I don't know. I'm sure it's a blend of all. Probably some money and finances. Are they getting the ability to reinvest in the platform, or is that going directly to shareholders? I would assume it's a bit of everything, but some of those legacy tools are no longer on the there's all those evaluation companies out there, Gartner, Forrester, things like that, that will evaluate these products, and they used to be in the top quadrant, and now they're kind of in that bottom quadrant. And some of these new players are coming into the space, offering a lot of new things, a lot of new innovations, access to different tools and subsets of tools within the larger tool that are quickly moving them up to the top of that curve. We had,
Could you name some of those?
yeah, I mean, I think the one of the biggest movers in the space right now is probably Microsoft's Power BI. It seems to be overtaking most, not all, most tools in the business intelligence space as far as ease of use, ease of visualizations, um, how sharp it looks, how crisp and clear it looks, what you're able to do with the tool, how you're able to tell stories with the data. It's a great tool that we've started to use a lot, and it seems to be
Hmm.
replacing some of those legacy tools that I won't name.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because looking from like a social perspective, right? I've been to China, and years ago already, we sort of got introduced to this idea of WeChat, right? And basically, the idea behind it was an app for everything. They want the payment apps to be in there, the communication app to be in there, the social apps to be in there. And so it wouldn't make like perfect sense to put all the LinkedIn, Indeeds, or whatever platform, the professional side of it in there as well. Now, when we look at the new generation, like Gen Z and up, right? They are using different tools for everything. They're using TikTok as a search engine. They're using, ChatGPT instead of Google. They're doing all these things. Do you think that the new generation would require a new platform? Would something like that get up and maybe a social side would add the professional side to it? Or do you think that having that split is very good and important?
Yeah, I honestly don't know that I've got an opinion one way or the other. Do I think folks are trying? And I mean, we've seen it with Elon and formerly Twitter, now X, wanting to be its its own big overarching platform that covers banking and finance and social media and this and that, um, versus very specialized folks and companies that do their own thing in their own tool, and they're good at one thing and one thing only, and that's all they care about and that's all they focus on. I don't know if one's better than the other. I like the idea of only having one password and having everything in one place. So if I'm going to have my
Same.
choice, I'm going to say, yeah, let's get everything in one platform, one approach. From my industry's perspective, we've kind of seen both of those play out. We've seen some companies, some clients try to have that different vendor for everything, where they don't want all the eggs in one basket, so to speak, where they want to have a technology partner for this, a services partner for this, a different technology
Mhm.
partner for this. And you've got all of these different solutions, and it's really hard to wrangle those all together. And you have to do integrations and make sure that they play well together. And you've got hiring managers with 50 different logins and all sorts of different passwords, and not knowing where to start the process, where to end the process. Are they even in the process, or are they in the wrong tool entirely?
Yeah.
Versus other
Simplifying this whole mess.
Yep, versus other organizations, and Magnet's one of them, where we want to offer a platform approach where everything can be in one place. We can do everything. You can pick and choose what pieces of that platform you want to use. We tailor it to the needs of the organization. But why have 10 different contracts to manage and 10 different vendors to manage and 10 different website bookmarks on your browser and 20 different places
Yeah.
to go and 50 different main contacts? Have one place, one contact, take care of everything in the realm of talent, and you're good to go. And I've seen that a lot. That's been a push in the analytics space for a long time now. Is what we've called total talent management, or any other moniker or name that you call it. But seeing all of your talent in one place, getting a business intelligence solution where you see your FTEs and your non-FTE workers in one place. Do you know that you actually have employees in these countries that you have never even been to and didn't know you had employees there? And having that complete overarching picture of your business, that's probably the, I don't know, the most innovative pipe dream solution of analytics. But
The
it's,
Holy Grail.
yep, it's
Yeah.
the one-stop shop for insights. If you want to know how many countries you're in, do you really want to go to a full-time solution, a contingent solution, maybe another one for a different part of the business that you didn't even know you had, that was managed by somebody else entirely? And you start to see you've got nine different spreadsheets that you're trying to operate off of and 12 different systems. And you've got a different
Nightmare.
set of data for this country and a different set for this country and a different set for this country. And it becomes really hard to answer very simple questions like, where are we? How many people do we have? What have we spent this year? So that's,
In real time. It'll
yeah,
take you weeks to figure it out. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, if you have to
I get
talk
that.
to, yeah, if you have to talk to, 10 different people or 10 different systems, you're not doing that in real time.
Absolutely. Agreed. Okay, we have two questions left.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Um, the last one is it's something that's been a big talking point to a lot of people, which is the shortage of talent or the shortage of staff and all these things. Um, do you think that's real, or do you think we should just get the basics right, or should we apply a new tactic, new strategy? How do we solve either the idea of it or the problem of it?
Yeah. I mean, it depends, right? Right now, I would say it's very much an employer's market. We've seen major companies across the globe doing rifts and layoffs, and every day it seems like there's two or three new news articles about this major company is planning to lay off 1,000 workers, 5% of their workforce, 10,000 workers, whatever those numbers are. So the
Mm,
talent's out there. You can go on, we've talked about LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn and see all of the green open to work banners on people's pictures that you never thought you'd see that picture on. So the workers are out there. It's do are the organizations actually serious about bringing them in, or are they just dipping their toes in the water and trying to see what's out there with no real plans to actually hire? And if they are looking to hire, are they focusing solely on their one physical location in a tapped out market that a lot of people have moved away from? Or are they open to remote talent in locations all over the globe that they might not have considered? Right? You don't necessarily, if you're sitting in front of a computer all day typing away, you're on Microsoft Teams and Outlook, and you're working on your PowerPoint slides. I could do that from anywhere. I could do that from my bedroom, from
exactly.
my physical office, from a beach in Hawaii. It doesn't matter where you're doing it from.
I'll
You
take the latter.
Yeah, yeah, me too. You can do it from anywhere. So if that is an ability, why are we not doing that? And we see a lot of organizations are pushing for people to come back to the office. And there's don't get me wrong, there's benefits to being in the office. It's great to see folks connect, have that physical interaction. Um, but is it always required, especially if you're having problems finding something specific? Probably not.
Heck, I think you're right. I don't think it's a silver bullet for the whole thing, but definitely for a big part of the market, like remote work is a way to go. Absolutely.
Yep.
Um, are you a quote kind of guy? Do you
Not
like
really.
quotes?
No.
Not really, because they asked me to ask you for four different ones, but I'm going to cut that down to one. Is there one quote? Is there one mantra, one piece of wisdom you live by that you would like to share with us?
I honestly don't. I don't. If you ask me what if I had a favorite quote, I'd say I don't. I really am not a quote person. I'm kind of jealous of the folks that are, right. The folks that have a witty saying or a remark for everything. That one thing that piece of 18th century literature that's this
I just
beautiful thought
burned in
provoking
your
statement that
brain.
they
Yeah.
they always have. I don't have one. So maybe that's the quote. You should have a mantra.
You should have a mantra. I think that's a brilliant quote. Yeah, everyone should have a mantra.
Yeah, and if you
We'll
don't,
take
go
that.
get
Well,
one.
thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for an engaging and insightful conversation with great insights and I think, good points and data. I think we all look forward to your talk. Obviously, you're going to be there at the GTSI 2025, which
Yep.
is in September, and it's in Amsterdam. And you're going to be part of that, the whole future of workforce transformation. I would like to thank you for your time and wish you an amazing day. Go run 100 miles. I'm definitely not, but I'm very, very impressed. Very impressed. You can run 100 miles. To me, that is absolutely insane. We're gonna test it when you come here. I'm gonna
Sounds
figure
good.
out how many rounds. around the canal, that is.
Hey, sounds good.
But I'll get back to you. Cool. So thank you very much. We'll see you very soon. And yeah, thanks, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. Have a good day.
Yep, you too.